cool.
You got to find out what they're interested in. You know, our 13-year-old now, he's interested in World War I and World War II, any books about the wars. I mean, this started a couple of years ago when we go to the library, and I'd be like, whoa, where are you going? And he was in the nonfiction section, you know, getting all these books on war and just studying them and reading them. And now,
so this is a comic, but it's excellent.
yeah, these
Trees,
graphic
trenches,
novels are
mud
really
and blood.
popular right now for boys. And
Excellent.
And there's a lot of history in these books.
I read one. It was so good.
I did. You know, it doesn't attract me at all. So there are things that are going to attract your kids, your sons, that don't attract you, moms. D-Day. You know, this was a book. He got to pick out any book he wanted. Some friends took him to the bookstore, and that was a book he chose. You know, and
he's got math.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, he studies that, and I think it's helping them find things that interest them. And so sometimes, you know, you need to get outside. You need to take walks into nature, discover things, discover the insect, the snake, the whatever, and go back home and go to the library, research, find information, find something that interests them. I think that's a big thing. And then just reading to them. And having books there, it's like, display them, you know, have them someplace where they're accessible, and don't fill up their time with so many things that there's no time to read. You know, don't let them have whatever technology they want at any time. Limit the distractions, you know, so that they can have time to be curious and want to read. Even
activities. There's a disease in our culture where they got to be part of every team and everything, and everything from school, or if they're not homeschooling or even homeschooling now, the culture has shifted a lot in the last 20 years that we've been homeschooling to where now parents are just dropping them off in all these different activities, and they don't have time to be together as a family and to just sit down and reflect and read, for example.
Yeah, I think that create habits, you know, in your home, that this is something that we all do. We all read.
When do you read to them? With the kids or with them?
Usually before bed, like we have a nighttime routine. That's when I'm usually reading just a fun read aloud. You know, sometimes we have other books that we're reading for school, you know, that we're reading aloud during the day. But I mean, the fun part is that when there's tension, it's a good time to pull out the good book that you're reading together. That's what I found. Like sometimes even at night, I think, I don't feel like reading. It's late. I can just put them to bed. But I know it's going to change the atmosphere, especially if things have been, I don't know, just people are grumpy. Read a book together, and you just be surprised how it changes the atmosphere in your relationships.
Yeah, for the older kids, that's what the younger kids. For the older kids, like our 16-year-old, he's part of a group with a couple of other families. They meet every Monday, and they're reading books like this one, The Will to Meaning, right? Oh, Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl. Have you heard of that book? It's an amazing book, just psychology, and he went through concentration camp and how he survived. So they sit down and discuss. I went there. I led one discussion for about 3 or 4 different weeks. It was Jordan Peterson, 12 Rules for Life. And it's not me teaching him, because if I try to sit down with my 16-year-old, it's not going to work. So find an environment. That's the awesome thing about homeschooling. You can place them in an environment where they're going to listen from other adults and other kids their age. Mm-hmm. Create the positive peer pressure that you want to create, the positive connections. Even if they don't live close to you, figure out a way to create them, right?
Yeah, and when you homeschool, it can become part of your curriculum as they get older, you know, books that you want them to read. And I think it's a habits that they create that's really going to shape who they become. And it's the habit of reading their Bible in the morning, spending time. I mean, I'm not going to be able to control that when they leave our house, but my prayer is that a habit has been created in their life that they would be missing, that they would realize, I'm hungry for God's word, because I used to get fed every day, and maybe it's because I remind them still, but there'll be a time in their life where if they aren't doing that, I pray that they'll be hungry for the bread of life, for God's word.
Yes. So talked about discipline and thinking out of the box, and now one in the middle that is really important. Let's finish with this: communication and relationships. When kids are little, you can micromanage them and just boss them around. You're their boss. You tell them what to do. As they're getting older, this was so hard for me. This was so hard for me. Transitioning into influence by leadership. You need to set up a game that you can win, and it's not by forcing them anymore. And you need to have realistic expectations and make sure that they may not want to do things the way you want them to do. I mean, just yesterday, I realized we went out on a bike ride. We bike around, it's about 5 miles every day with the younger boys, and came back and I told them, let's do some push-ups and pull-ups. Yeah. Well, my 11-year-old had no problem doing everything exactly how I told him. His 13-year-old brother, even though he's stronger, he didn't want to do everything exactly how I said. Not because he couldn't do it, but because he's older. So he wants to do his own thing.
His way.
Yeah, and it was hard for me, but it reminded me of how I pushed my older son, Cesar Jr., if you're watching this, bro. Sorry. We would go work out together, and I would tell him, do it like this. And he didn't want to do it exactly like that. Or he would tell me, well, you're telling me to do it like this, but you're not quite doing it like that. And I didn't know how to handle that. So just become wiser and become more of a coach, of a friend, and set up consequences if you want him to do something, but you cannot force it anymore because it breaks a relationship. And just be aware of that. I deal with that all the time, and realizing that I cross the line and pushing them too hard and being too critical and expecting too much from them instead of treating them with the respect that I would treat another adult, somebody in my team, in my business that I was leading. You don't force them. You're not their boss.
And it happens in play time. They'll play soccer together. And when they're little, like you're helping them, telling them what to do, and they want to know. But as they get older, they feel like you're trying to control them, right? And you've told me, I think I'm going to wear my mouthpiece to remind me not to talk so much, not to give directions so much. And I think the temptation is to want to control, want to give them so, for me, to just pick at everything because I want them to do it right, and just err on the side of being too soft in that area, I think.
I'll be honest with you. Sometimes I feel like there's no hope for some areas in my character that I need to grow. But Pam just told me this morning.
No, I told him, I love to garden. I don't have a big garden, but I love to go out there every day, and growth happens little by little, and it's happening. If you have the water of God's word, if you are in his presence, if you're wanting to grow and you're feeding yourself good things, you are growing. You don't see it, but it's happening. I see it in the garden, it's little tiny changes, but then all of a sudden it's like there's going to be fruit. And so have grace for yourself as you grow. Just be planted, be planted, keep doing what's right. And there's going to be growth. There's going to be growth in your relationships with your kids. There's going to be growth in their lives as you create these habits in your daily watering. You're the sunshine. You were just reminding us, kids are like flowers. Sunflowers turn to where the sun is. And our kids turn to the face that's smiling at them, the one that's delighting in them. Mm-hmm. And it's the same for your teenagers and your young ones. They want to see that you delight in them, that you find the good in them. So, look for the good in your kids today. Give them your biggest smile. Let them know that they're loved, and let them grow little by little.
That's it. Thank you, honey. So thanks for joining, guys. We are
Cesar and Pam with CesarandPam.com.
And you don't have to sell your soul, your family, or your health to grow your business and achieve your dreams. Join us, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube as Cesar and Pam. And we'll see you at the next one.
Yeah, send us your questions.
Yep.